Well, an interesting stat came out this morning. Listen to this. People aged 55 and up now hold over 1 million jobs in Quebec. That was reported by CTV News Montreal. So, big labor market report for 2023, the Quebec Statistic Institute released those numbers. So that means, in other words, that people age 55 or older now occupy nearly a quarter of all jobs in the province, 22%. So is this a good thing, a bad thing, or normal thing? Every time I have a labor-related question, I turn to one of our top experts in the field, AJAY PANGARKAR, workforce performance strategist and award-winning author at centralknowledge.com. AJAY, thank you for taking the time this afternoon.
Hey, David, happy Sticky Bun Day to you.
Thank you, and happy Sticky Bun Day to you. Yeah, I like a good sticky bun. Are you a fan of a good sticky bun?
Oh, yeah, and guess where I'm going a little later? I'm going to IKEA to pick up a six-pack.
Oh, very good. At IKEA. Okay. I just want to say sticky bun as many times as I can on the radio. I don't know why. I think it's funny. Anyways, so just top of mind here this morning when you saw this story, I mean, what was your first reaction? Good thing, bad thing, normal thing?
I'm agnostic about it, to be honest with you. I think
Really?
this is a reality. Well, no, it's a reality. I mean, the simple answer is this, right? We know the population is aging.
Yeah.
And so the bulk of the bubble right now between, let's say, the baby boomers and the Gen Xers, especially the lead part of the Gen Xers, those two generations make up the bulk of this. And, I'm probably in that group because I'm over 55. So, at this point, most people are staying in the workforce only because the demographics are moving that way. So, it might not be, I guess it's going to be an issue for the workforce overall because, as I mentioned before, this is one of the few times in history we've had like 5 generations in the workforce rather than 3. Because not only are the Xers and the boomers, but you also have some people who are over 75 or 80 that are still in the workforce, that are still working there. So there's a management issue for sure. And there might be a roadblock too for younger people to get into the workplace. So there might be issues coming up.
Okay, so tell me more about these issues.
Okay, so one is that we talked about age. The other thing is that people are living longer. We're living in better health, and so the one big issue is that the more people who can work healthy will stay in their jobs, especially for maybe some of the benefits that they're getting from their work. And when I'm talking about benefits, I'm talking about dental and health and that kind of stuff. So they may be just benefiting it, maybe not just in salary, but because they have these additional benefits, which is blocking, people who are trying to work up the ladder to get in these positions, not being able to get there. The other one is, of course, people might be a little selfish too, just wanting to stay in work because they just feel like working. And it's like, okay, that's fair enough. And one other one is, of course, people may need to continue work again, not just for the benefits, but now for money, right? They didn't plan for their retirement properly. And so they have no choice but to keep on working. So what is it doing? It's causing a bit of a dam at the top of the workplace, or the workforce, I should say, because people who are not necessarily millennials, but the people who are, the Y generation, I think it is, who are in their 30s, going into their 40s right now, are facing a situation where they're saying, well, when are these people moving on? Well, if you're living longer and you need the money, chances are you're not going anywhere real fast. So that's going to be an issue in the workplace.
So you see this as more of a reflection of the difficult economic times more than a problem that we have with the labor force.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably a combination of a lot of things, David. I mean, one is, of course, economic times where, facing higher cost of living and people need that extra income coming in, and maybe they have to delay another 5 or 10 years, their so-called quote-unquote retirement, because they just don't have the money to, pay down the mortgage, let's say, if they have remaining mortgage on their house, which is at a high interest rate, or the cost of living on inflation, or whatever it may be, they're just feeling, the bit of the stress and the pressure. Or maybe they're in a good position, but they believe that all this high cost is forcing them to stay in because they're just not sure. So there's a lot of moving parts in this study, but the reality is it's just going to get worse, like the study says, meaning that as we live longer, as the economic conditions maybe don't improve as quickly as they should, as people are feeling less secure about retiring, we're going to see an aging population stay in the workforce longer.
So, Ajay, my concern is already we are in a labor shortage situation in a lot of different sectors. I mean, it's cooled off since, say, a year ago. I mean, there were over 200,000 jobs available. Now it's less than 175 in Quebec. There's been some layoffs in certain sectors. So definitely the economic slowdown has had a net impact on the labor shortage, but it's still with us. So if a larger segment of our population that is responding to the needs of our job market are the oldest members of our workforce, they're eventually going to leave the workforce much faster. And so won't that be a problem down the road, a major issue?
Well, there's a couple of things you bring up, David.
Yeah.
One is the experience. I think companies are also seeing that we need to hang on to some of these people because we need the experience. So they're hanging on to them a little longer for the experience. But the other side of the coin, I like to see the demographics. Some past studies I've seen now maybe a year or two old at this point that showed that the shortage of workers were really in the low-income wage areas, the frontline workers and that kind of stuff. And certain sectors like healthcare and stuff like that people are not going into only because the working conditions are not good. So, it's not that people don't want to be doctors, but they want to be paid adequately and they want to have a life, past being a doctor or a nurse. And so the point being is that these factors are playing a large role in today's society because companies are hanging on to that experience as long as they can, which is a good news for us who are over 50 because here's the deal. If you have experience, you probably can flip that into being a consultant for your company and maybe work less hours but be paid more and then leave that room for that job position for younger people to come in and gain experience or even become a mentor for those younger people moving up the ladder.
So are we heading towards a situation like the one we're seeing in Japan where we're seeing people working regular jobs into their 70s and 80s even?
Yeah, I think we're going to see more of that. Again, the economic conditions are improving. We've done as quickly as we want them to. Canada is in a great position because, from what we see from the reports, we sort of skirted the recession. And that's a good thing, but it could also be a bad thing because we're not sure we're skirting the recession 100%. So people are saying, well, maybe we need to stay in the workforce at least for a couple of years. So we are going to see an aging workforce significantly. Simply because, forget about the economics about it, but just because the whole society is getting older. We're seeing the issues in a lot of sectors right now, but the workplace is going to see that roadblock because that bubble that started in the 50s and then the late 40s and mid-50s into the early 60s, that bubble is now getting really old. And those people never thought they'd see their retirement, and now they're seeing the retirement, but maybe not as good as they wanted it to. So, yeah, I do think we're going to be a bit down the road, a bit like Japan, but I think a lot of Western economies who had that baby boom are in that position as well.
So I can only guess, and we're going to have to leave it at this, Ajay, is that this is going to spell a whole new series of adjustment and adapting overall. As a workforce specialist, you're going to have to really contend with what it means to have older workers staying on for much longer that was previously regarded as normal.
Well, you very quickly, one other factor we're not playing into this issue, yes, all the workers are sticking around, and eventually the bubble is going to burst, and it's going to vacate over time, the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years as it goes on. But for the younger workers, those positions may not be filled because technology is taking over. So I'll leave it at this. The AI world is catching up really quickly and going to be fulfilling some of those job roles that are going to be vacated, not allowing those young people to maybe move into those positions.
All right, Ajay, thank you as always. Always a pleasure.
Thank you, David. Take care.